Dina, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited to talk with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm just excited to be on, meet you, meet new people. It's one of my favorite things doing all of this book and social media stuff.
Same. And it's so neat how social media brings people together and
It
how,
is.
you reach out to someone. Like I just kind of cold called you and I just reached out to you and said, "Hey, I think we have some mutual friends in common. And I saw that you have a new book that came out. And, graciously you said yes, that you would come join me today.
Oh no,
So it's just
it's
a
an
quick
honor. It's an
DM.
honor. I mean, is there any other way to do it than to just like, as they say, like shoot your shot kind of thing? That's how everything happens. And I'm just happy to, like I said, like meet new people, be able to connect with more people because that's the purpose of all of it.
Exactly. And it's so fun when I look back and think of not just who I've had on my podcast, but just who I've met through social media alone. And if it wasn't for social media, I
Hmm.
have so many friends that I wouldn't have, like that have become either real life friends that live locally that I see
Yeah.
often, or, people like you that live on a different side of the country, but then we've also become friends and we start chatting all the
Yeah.
time and we find lots of things in common. And if
Yeah.
I come, out to Jersey or even New York or anywhere in that vicinity, I'm going to hit you up and, call you for coffee. And I've done that before too with certain
Oh, that
people.
would
And
be
it's fun.
wonderful. Yeah, that
It's
would be great.
fun.
It does. It definitely widens your reach. For all of the downfalls that social media can have, that's definitely one of the
Exactly.
positives is being able to befriend someone from another place that you might not come across otherwise.
Exactly. Well, speaking of social media, as you saw, I took a poll on Instagram stories yesterday, letting people know I was interviewing you and, opened it up to see if they had any questions for
Hmm.
you. And for anyone who may not know who you are, first of all, we are going to talk about your beautiful book that just came out recently.
Oh, thank you.
I can't wait to dig into this and ask you more questions about that. There were a lot of questions about the book specifically, but one that I thought was funny. And again, if anyone who doesn't know who Dina is, if you watched a little show that came on E Entertainment back in 2012, I can't believe it was that long ago.
I
Seems like yesterday.
know.
Called Married to Jonas. Dina is the sister-in-law of Kevin Jonas. Her sister is married to Kevin from the Jonas Brothers. And I was just sharing with Dina before we started recording that my daughter, who's 11, is a super fan of Jonas Brothers. And she thinks I'm the coolest mom in the world today that I got to interview you. Definitely won some cool points there. I'm taking her to her first Jonas Brothers concert next week, and she is more than thrilled about it. So, but I know they've been touring, they just started their tour. And so, one
Hmm.
question that came through is, have you recovered from Hanson Gate yet?
I really love this question. Yeah, I mean, it is a wound that definitely has to heal. I mean, Hanson was my Jonas Brothers back when I was younger. I have great memories following them as a band. I actually still go and see them when they come around New York because I just really appreciate their music in general. Not looking to like storm down any barricades or anything anymore.
You're
Just
just a genuine, loving fan. I think
yeah,
that's
just a
awesome. Yeah.
casual listen. It's all good. And Brian and I were away for our anniversary trip in Boston, and Kevin calls us up and he's like, "Guys, help me out." Because he knows we're both really into music, my husband and I. He's like, just throw out some bands. We're trying to think of people to do guest spots with us. So we were having fun going back and forth about that. And I said, I thought I was like joking, but not. I was like, what about Hanson? And he was like, you know what? He's like, yeah. He's like, we're friendly with them. What a good idea. He's like, let me see if I can get them to come. I think originally they were trying for the Hershey, Pennsylvania show, which
Okay.
I would have been home for. It would have
Right.
been fine.
That would have been
And
perfect.
so he calls me like an hour and a half later and he's like, I am so sorry. I'm like, what? What's the problem? He's like, they can't come to Hershey, but they can come tomorrow night. And
Oh,
that's what's happening. And there was no way out. I was in Boston. And we had concert tickets to see Ben Rector, who's also amazing.
yeah,
Poor Ben Rector
exactly.
got a bad rap from that. And I just could not go. But it's so funny when Hanson came out, my direct messages or my DMs blew up. And so many people were, and even friends of mine were like texting. My pastor of my church texted
Oh,
me
I
and was
saw
like,
that.
he was like, how is in everything that is holy, are you not there right now? I said, I know. And I know, I love that. I love that people remembered what a fan I am. So, I mean, Hanson definitely owes me like a finder's fee or something like that. But it was really sweet. Kevin FaceTimed me with Isaac and Zach before they went on, and they were just like, "Hey,
Oh,
sorry."
that's nice. That's a good
So he was
consolation
really
prize.
sweet. It is, and I know there'll be like another time, and I love that the audience loved it so much. I mean, two iconic brother bands getting together, great people. So I mean, I'm glad I had a hand in it.
Right.
Not happy that I wasn't there to see it come to fruition, but who knows what the future will hold for me.
Exactly. You have an inside connection, so at least you have that. So you never know what
Yeah,
will come down
for
the
sure.
pipeline later on.
For sure. I still have their cardboard cutout in my basement
Oh
hidden
my
away.
gosh.
I
I
do.
love
It's
that.
sad.
You
And
are a
I showed
super
that to
fan.
Kevin and his brothers when they first started coming around 20 years ago. I was like, guys, I used to be a fan. I know
That
what
is
it's like to
so
be a teeny
funny.
bopper fan. I'm
Uh-huh.
sure they thought that was really corny, but it's all right.
That's funny.
So
That's
that's
funny.
my
I
little
love it.
story.
I love it. Well, it's definitely, been a big thing enough where when I asked people to ask you questions, that definitely came up. And I thought that was funny. And I thought we'd
I
lead with that
I'm
because
proud.
it was just a
I'm
fun way to
proud of
start the
that.
show.
I'm proud. I'm proud. And that means you had some like diehard Dina fans
Yep.
contact
Yep.
you because that means you're listening to my stories and me ramble on
No, I
about
love
my
it.
sadness.
I I love it. I love it. Well, like I said, I think it's so good to talk to you, and I feel like I have so many things I want to talk to you about. But let's start with your book because
Mhm.
that's the main reason I reached out is because and then I ordered it and it came in the mail, and I just want to show it again because it's just so beautiful. The way
Thank you.
photography, the way it's laid out. It's so simple to read. It's very easy to read, but I love how it's part recipe, part devotional. You have so many Bible verses in here
Oh, thank
that
you.
are
I'm
just
glad
beautiful
that
to read.
you're
Yeah, and
loving
just just your own thoughts and how faith has led you in life, whether it's
it.
through cooking or family, whatever the case is. So, what inspired you to write the book, and
Mhm.
why did you decide to write it like this? Like I said, part devotional, part recipe, really emphasizing the love for your faith and your family. What inspired you to write this concept when you started the book?
Sure. I mean, there's a couple of parts to it. I think I'll first say, as I was writing the book, and the first part of it I finished was the recipes and all the recipe testing and the writing and editing, then shooting. And I had a wonderful team. I had a wonderful photographer and a food stylist and food styling team. I was very blessed with that. They made it a wonderful experience. They're friends of mine, and I sat down after I finished all that. I sat down and realized I had like the second half of the book to write. And I was like, oh gosh, like this 70 plus recipes really could have been enough.
Right, right.
I'm writing two books in one. How crazy. And I think that was one of the challenges to begin with is even like my publisher interested in the book, but I feel like we all were kind of like along the way. This is unique. It's a hybrid. Like, what are we going to do with this, but I was excited about it because I felt like when I had the opportunity to do a cookbook, after everything I've been through over the years, when I first started doing this, I was just recipe testing and writing for different magazines, different food brands. And then as social media became a thing, yes, it was primarily food, but I began sharing a lot of some of my postpartum issues and a lot of the behind the scenes with that because I just couldn't fake anything at a time when it wasn't cool to show anything that wasn't aesthetic. I was free falling, unfortunately, and having a hard time. And I couldn't hide that. But through sharing that, I found a larger community of people who that was so comforting for them to hear. And so from that point on, I just felt a huge responsibility to always be very transparent about how things are working or aren't working
Right.
in my life. And when I thought about faith, even when I then fast forward had to go through cancer, I was like, all right, this is like a terrible thing. I don't want to be doing this. But I recognize this is one of those moments where you can show people tangible faith. A lot of us see, stories written about it, like testimony, or, okay, I started here and this wasn't good in this picture, but hey, all the way at Z, everything is great. And I'm the type of person who's always like, I want to know, but how did you get there? Like, what did it look like when you were army crawling through the valley of your life? Like, what does that look like? That's what I learned from. That's what I grab onto. So I thought for anybody who maybe wasn't familiar with faith or had lost their faith, what a great way to grab them and bring them along and say, this is what a good day looks like. This is what a bad day looks like. This is what it looks like when I'm questioning. This is when it looks like I have an answer. In order to, I just felt like that would encourage a larger group. I said, if I have to go through this, it just means I can cast a wider net now. And that's what I did. So when I had the opportunity to do the book, which cancer came like as soon as I signed the contract for the
Oh,
book. So
wow.
it was crazy timing. So that had not happened yet. But I knew that I didn't want to drop a cookbook out into the world or into people's laps, that they're just thumbing through it, saying like, I wish my food looked like this. I wish my house looked like this. So I wish I could get family pictures like this. Like all the comparison that we do all of the time. I didn't want to be a catalyst for that. Now I know you have to make some things um, pretty to look at and whatnot. Like that's okay. But I knew it was an opportunity for me to grab that, I don't know, that person that's on the floor with their kids and it's just been day in, day out of just like tummy time and Cheerios, and they don't know what's happened to themselves, and say like, hey, like lift your head, like lift your eyes. What you're doing is important. You're doing a great job. I know Forbes magazine isn't knocking on your door for like top 50 influential woman or whatever, but they should be. Okay. Just because my face is in the pages of these books, it doesn't mean that I didn't and still don't continue to struggle in the ways that different people are struggling throughout the day to get their days done. So I don't like to be in front of people. I like to come alongside them.
Right.
And that is the way I felt I could get that done with the book.
I think that's so inspiring. And I think it's actually really hard to do. I've been on Instagram for about 10 years now and it started with my
Mhm.
blog. And, I
Yeah.
think when Instagram first started, it was very curated photos.
Mhm. For sure.
Everything was clean in the background and your hair was nicely done. You were posing for something, especially if you were doing an ad for a company that you were getting paid
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted.
Mhm.
And, I think even I got into that rhythm of like
Sure. Me
posting
too.
those types of things, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
people kept saying, be authentic, be vulnerable, be real, be raw. And I almost got
Yeah.
to the point where I was like, I don't know how anymore. Like it just felt
Yeah.
so like robotic for me to go through the motions and almost fake to a certain extent. And so when I started trying to post something with like no makeup on or post something where I had some stuff in the background, and what's
Yeah.
funny is when I do, that's when my engagement goes up. But it's hard to get there. It's hard to, find that fine balance, like you said, of here's this beautiful
Yes.
book, but there's also a lot of realness and rawness to it. And,
For
just
sure.
because
And
I
I
have a
want
book deal
people
doesn't mean
to
I don't have a bad day.
remember, yeah, for sure. I wanted people to remember that like life is still good if you're living it offline. Like just you don't everybody has gotten so into making and growing platforms. I mean, not everybody, but that's what we're all looking to. That's what we all look up to. And it has its pluses and minuses, just like everything else. But so often you get that question, how are you doing it all? And I was kind of like, I don't know if people want to hear this, but I wasn't doing it all. And I was questioning it all of the time. And so I put a lot of that in the book. I was very honest about those moments where, like it says, the title at the kitchen sink, where I was just staring. I remember this when Sienna was really little. I hadn't slept in like weeks, months, and I was just staring out the back window over the kitchen sink, cleaning out bottles that like 5 a.m. just wondering like, what did I do? Or like, what are we doing? I mean, I had nothing to do with her. I was just like, what is happening to me? My brain, why am I not functional? So all of those thoughts and the way I had to work myself out of them and through them, fast forwarding to there's still good moments where I was at the kitchen sink and my sister and my mother were in the dining room and they were like laughing and talking about something. My other sister was helping me clear the table. My dad and my brother were in the TV room talking lively about something. And then my nieces and my daughter were running around the island. And I remember thinking to myself, this is what I prayed for. This is what I did want, the ability to have Sunday dinner like this, the chaos, the house full with family. Like this is the trade-off. So there's both triumphant moments at the kitchen sink and then, the not so triumphant moments. And I thought that in being honest about those in between all of the beautiful recipes and the encouragement for gathering with your family, just highlighting that if you're serving whoever it is in your life, family, friends, a significant other, your community, coworkers, anybody, that is worth so much more than we're giving it credit for these days.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple more questions that came online that I have the
Mhm.
same question. So let's dig into some of
Great.
those. And we're going to come back to them, kind of going round and round in circles. So we're going to keep repeating
Great.
some
Let's do
content
it.
here.
Let's get on the ride.
Okay, so one of them is, do you have a secret ingredient you love to use, and do you have a favorite recipe? Which I know is hard because that's
I
singling
know,
out
I know
your own
everyone
book,
says
but
that's the
maybe
hardest
something you make
thing.
the most often. I don't know, but something along those lines.
So let's say I would say tied for. I mean, a lot of my recipes are my favorite recipes. I eat a lot
I
and I cook a
figured.
lot. Um, but I will say I love in the book there's baked penne vodka, which doesn't sound like earth shattering or anything, but it really is like something you want to dive into and you never want to leave. It's like that kind of dish, and I just love that it's great for a crowd whenever I have, because when I have family over, I'm not just having 3 people over. I'm like 12 plus
Right.
people in my house, like at all times. And that is just something, it's so nice to be able to make it ahead. You plop it down on the table so like I can hang out too. It seems to go for days. And I love that it's a gathering dish, a comforting dish. Also, when friends have babies or someone, is coming out of the hospital from a surgery, dropping off a tray of that, it's going to feed them for 3, 4 days. So I
Exactly.
also love that aspect of it. So that baked penny vodka is, it's definitely one of my faves. And I would say having different things on hand, like I have a chapter that's called on hand, where it's just like that quick everyday dressing, but I have what's called easy marinara sauce,
Mm.
which it's funny doing a food blog. I think that, opening up tomatoes, frying the garlic, adding the tomatoes, the basil, like that to me is opening jarred sauce. Like I'm an Italian American. Like my mom always made it that way. It takes us like 5 to 10 minutes. So that was my equivalent to opening a jar. Opening a jar was foreign to me. And when I started sharing online and everyone wanted a recipe for a simple tomato sauce, I couldn't wrap my head around it. Just like when you make chicken parm or eggplant parm, everyone's in my DMs, show me, show me, show me. I'm like, there's 1,000 recipes for chicken parm and eggplant parm. You've got to be kidding me. But I take for granted that not everybody learned the same type of food or the same type of way or came from a family that was cooking all the time. So that easy marinara makes countless dishes, whether you're throwing it on pizza or, yeah, a chicken or eggplant parm, or whether you're throwing it on pasta. It just does so many things. So I love recipes like that in the book.
I love that. And do you have a secret ingredient that you like to use, or maybe an ingredient that you can't live without? If there was one thing that you could take from your kitchen, what would that be?
I mean, two things is like, yeah, a good olive oil is key, and I'm a big fan of kosher salt, which doesn't sound too fancy, but when I was on Guy's Grocery Games, one of the questions I asked Guy Fieri before we started, he said, "Does anybody have any questions?" I said, "Yes, what type of salt is at the stations?" And he was so shocked. He's like, "That is a great question." He's like, "It is kosher salt, but when I got to my station, it was table salt." And that
Interesting.
it yes, it is It is totally different. It's a totally different feel, totally different taste, and it like threw me for a loop. I didn't say it, I didn't show it, but I was like, "Oh man." Um
Liar. No, I was
I know.
kidding.
I was like, I can't believe this. I've been duped. I shouldn't have asked the question. They probably switched because that's the way production is. Like, they're
Right.
sneaky. I shouldn't have asked the question because they probably switched it out
Right.
on me. But even I'm trying to think of secret ingredients. They kind of happen. It depends upon the dish. I would say maybe not a secret ingredient, but a spice that I have in my arsenal, which is a surprise hit, is smoked paprika.
Ooh.
And it changes up marinades for pork, it changes up a vinaigrette, and it just, I don't know, it just gives your everyday dishes, makes it a little bit different. Like if you're getting bored of your same, marinade for pork or chicken, that's something that'll give it like a little bit of a twist without it being spicy. It's almost like a warm, mapley kind of spice. It's good, especially for the fall.
Yeah, definitely. I actually like paprika. I have that in my cabinet right now. I do
Hmm.
use that sometimes. So I can't wait to. I mean, what you already just described and other things I've seen in the book. Like I can't start making it because it's funny. My mom. I grew up with my mom making homemade marinara sauce. Like I remember her,
Yep.
cooking the tomatoes on the stove and doing
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And then I think for me, I'm not sure if I just, as a mom and a new mom, you get busy,
Yeah, you just do what's
you just want
easier.
something fast and you just put it in. But, I was starting to look at some of the ingredients in some of the marinara sauce that's out there that's already
Oh,
pre-made and
yeah.
like the preservatives and the sugar and things. And I
Mhm.
thought, why don't I do this? So I'm inspired, Dina. Thank you. I'm going to start
I
making my
love
own marinara
it.
now.
I promise it is really like it's less than 5 minutes to put together and that's it.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we'll probably come back to a few more questions in a moment, but
Sure.
one thing I know that stood out to me in the book, and I don't remember exactly what page I read it on, but it talked about how each morning you wake up and you can make a choice, and each morning you
Yeah.
can make choices about your day and your mood, and even if things are not going well, there's always maybe something positive you can focus on. And as a mental health therapist, I
Yeah.
obviously preach that a lot in my therapy sessions with my clients. And, so my question's a little twofold here. So going
Mhm.
back to just obviously it's all encompassing with your book and your lifestyle and how you live your life as a Christian mom, and how you got through cancer specifically, because that's something big. I know we
Yeah.
both share, we're both cancer survivors,
Mhm.
different types of cancers, but we're both cancer survivors. How do you wake up on those mornings that aren't so good and still have
Mhm.
maybe not a good day, but a day that you can maybe focus on gratitude or something positive that's going on without, there's that theory out there of toxic positivity. So sometimes you
Sure.
just want to lay down and with the, curtain shut and you just want to lay down and not talk to anybody. Like I get it. I've had those days
That
too and those
yeah,
are
that's
okay.
fine too.
But how do you
That's
get out
fine
of that?
too.
How do you keep moving forward? Maybe it is faith, maybe it's just your attitude, but what would you
Mhm.
suggest to someone who's kind of in the thick of something, and they need to
For
maybe
sure.
make a different choice
Yeah.
that morning?
And I understand that. Like, I'm not saying I just wake up and I'm like, all right, I'm in a bad mood, but I'm going to count all my blessings today. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but that it doesn't work out that way. And even, I don't think that God wants us to wake up and like force gratitude or force happiness. If anything, it's more like He's looking for us to realize that, yeah, we have these feelings, we have this weakness that's going on, we have this struggle. And instead of trudging through it by myself all day, I'm just reaching out to him. And what does that look like? Because um not everybody subscribes to that, like, which I understand. But I this just happened to me yesterday. um we just had like a series of unfortunate events the past couple weeks, like one after another. We thought we were getting out of it, another one hits, and I woke up a little bit earlier because I knew, like, I been going so fast trying to put out all these fires and do what needs to be done. I can't, I'm not thinking straight, like, at all. Like, at all. So I've learned to recognize that in myself when I just can't make heads or tail of my brain. Your stomach's tight, your heart is tight. And I have a bad habit of just like to keep moving forward with that. And I've just become more cognizant of it over time. And so I woke up a little bit earlier yesterday morning. And so I sit down and I'm trying to go through the Bible. I'm trying to pray. And I realize I'm not even reading the words that are in front of me. Like I just can't even. And I just sat there and I stared off in front of me from my kitchen table into my kitchen. And all I could get out was, Lord, I don't know. But I just know I'm out of control right now. Like, can you just grab hold of me? Those really dramatic scenes in a movie where someone is just like freaking out and they're like, oh my goodness, I can. Like, the guy comes over and just grabs them and is just like, it's okay. We got this. I was like kind of what I felt like. I felt like I was just like, oh my goodness. And like, I was looking for someone to just come along and like grab my hands and just be like, it's okay. Now, did the rest of my day like go perfectly well? No, the rest of my day was like doctor's appointments, traffic, like craziness. But right after that, as my daughter came down the stairs, I noticed that I was not as like wound tightly as I was before. And I decided, okay, I know we have a long day ahead of us. Let me make everyone a good breakfast. And I got to that, and I got to that with a calmer and a happy heart. And I was almost like, I don't even know where this came from. But then again, I did. And in that moment, I stopped and I was like, thank you, Lord. Like, the situation is not perfect, but I recognize that you gave me like a shred of peace and strength just to um, like stop the storm for a moment. So if you're in the middle and you're just spinning, it's like a tornado, and it's like you can't get out of it. You don't have the strength to do it, and that's what we need to recognize sometimes is we don't have the strength to do it on our own, and that's not what anyone's asking from us.
Right. Um, I love that. And I do subscribe, to that way of thinking. And I was just talking to a couple of
Yeah.
friends yesterday about how a friend of mine was going through something similar the last couple of days. And she was saying, so I sat down and I prayed about it, but I wasn't even sure if God was listening. And, that's a whole nother conversation. But
Yeah,
my
sure.
other friend responded and said, well, but okay, so you prayed about it. And then did you find peace with it? Because sometimes, God doesn't answer our prayers right away. It's not that he
No,
doesn't
no, for
hear us.
sure.
He just may answer it maybe months or years down the line, or maybe, things just will shift and change in our lives. And, that prayer, is answered in maybe a backhanded kind of way. But she
Yeah.
said, did you find peace with it? And I think that's a big element to it. So,
Yeah.
if you feel like your prayers aren't being answered, it's not like God's not listening. It's not like God's not there.
Mhm.
But it's finding peace with whatever, even if he's not answering right away, to find peace with that, which, I think is a
Yes.
big deal. But I want to ask you this. This is something I wanted to ask you because I'm personally asking or needing one.
Sure.
I'm needing recommendations. I'm starting a new women's Bible study soon, and we're all supposed to come, with something, in our hands, a suggestion, if you will. And I feel like I'm a little stuck because I've already been through a lot, and I need some new
Mhm.
suggestions. But do you have a favorite devotional? Like when you do your quiet time or your Bible time in the morning, obviously the Bible is the Bible, but do you have any specific devotionals that you love, specifically probably for women and or moms that you like?
Sure. I think that more recently, I've loved what Christine Kane has come out with. Her past two devotionals have been really centered on resilient hope, meaning when you're in those places where you're just about to give up or you're in the thick of it and you just cannot find the strength to push further, like where do you find the hope? Because especially as Christian women, a lot of us know in our brains, like, steps A, B, C, and D, we've learned about all of it, but that doesn't mean we can always access it in the middle of a tough spot. So her her devotionals, her past two devotional books have been really encouraging and life-giving in the sense of just trying to help you put one foot in front of the other and get unstuck. And then I work with a group called She Lives Fearless, and we did a study of a couple of the women in the Bible that we picked out recently, and that those are always fun too, to spotlight the women in the Bible and dive a little bit deeper into them and their situations and how they responded and how God cultivated their purpose and their heart. You often glean a lot from someone else's situation and reading about them. So that was another good one. So those would be the most recent ones I've been into.
I love that. Thank you. Because, like I said, I just feel like I just need some new ones. And there was one that was recommended to me a while ago, and no shame to it, but I just couldn't get past the fact that every page started with, or every prayer started with in this book, "Hey Jesus," and I was
Hey,
like,
Jesus.
"Hey
Oh,
Jesus."
another one I love, Rebecca George. She's
Okay.
another Christian author, good friend of mine, and she wrote a book that she just put out called You're Not Too Late. And it also has like some workbook aspects to it, which is really nice because it helps you pause for reflection, and read a little bit deeper. And that was all exploring different ideas of like how at different points in our life we feel like it's too late for us to do this, it's too late for us to do that, especially as women. We're like, oh, I'm past that, God can't use me here, I'm done, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too broken, I'm too this happened to me, so now I can no longer do this. And so she just kind of walks you through that. And again, very encouraging. And that's what I look for in a devotional. It's like, not only are you walking me through something, but at the end of the day, you're giving me hope and encouragement to move forward.
Yes, I love that. Okay, last question, and I know we have to wrap up soon, and it's so unfortunate because I have so many other questions that came from yours and my community that I would love
I
to,
love
but maybe we'll
that.
incorporate it like in a blog or something. We'll
Yeah,
figure it
for
out, but
sure.
or do an Instagram live, or I don't know. We'll figure it out. But do you have a favorite verse? I know you have tons of verses in your book, but do you have a
Oh my
favorite one,
goodness.
either in the book or just one that you live by that you try to just remind yourself, throughout the day or on hard days or even good days that you love or that you go to?
Sure. I'm thinking to myself now, I just said recently, like at the beginning of the year, I was praying about like what this year is going to look like, um and I'm blanking on the actual book in the Bible. I know if I go and look for it, I'll find it, but I don't want to take too much time. But it was a couple of verses, and the gist of it was, um God was speaking and saying, hey, I created every piece of sand on the beach.
Yeah.
I am the one who makes the waves come and meet the shore. Like I am that powerful. How could you think that I don't care about you? And this is me really paraphrasing
But I think I
the
know exactly
verse.
what you're talking about.
Yeah,
And I
and I'm
want
like, if
to
I
be
look down, I'm
clear.
like, I might be able to find it in like 2 seconds. So like, and it's like, oh my goodness, shouldn't you know that off the top of my head? But it's funny. It's almost like I have favorite verses, but it's more like I have favorite passages
Yeah.
that I have gleaned something from, and that or a moment where God really spoke to me through that passage, and I carried that. And I think also with having cancer, as we spoke before a little bit about that, and before we got on this, we mentioned to each other that worry of, is this going to come back? Like, was I done with this? And that was one of the things I was worried about a little bit. And that was one of the things I knew that I was perseverating on a little bit too much. And oh, I have the verse. It was in Jeremiah chapter 5, and it says, should you not fear me, declares the Lord? Should you not tremble in my presence? I made the sand a boundary for the sea, an everlasting barrier it cannot cross. The waves may roll, but they cannot prevail. They may roar, but they cannot cross it. And I felt like in that moment, God was saying to me, I've made a line in the sand about your health and your cancer. Like it's done. We cannot cross it. And the challenge was for me to take that as the final word. And I was going to have to grow my faith to truly believe in that. But what an amazing just what an amazing sentiment to know. Um, I don't know, just to know that was like the magnitude of his power and his presence right there, for me in those verses. Like, no matter how tough those waves are, yeah, they can come up, but they're not going to stay because I say they can't stay. And so I feel like we all could use tapping into that power because circumstances of life come hard and fast and all the time, and we're distracted people, and we're not always revisiting that verse
Right.
every day. And
Yeah.
maybe if we were, we would be less shaken because we would be constantly staying in that mode of like, no matter what's going on, he has the final say. No matter what's going on, he has my back.
Ah, I love that. And again, something, going through cancer myself, I
Hmm.
worry about it almost every
Of
day. It
course.
never leaves my mind at some capacity.
It changes. I think it
Yes.
changes your makeup. Like once you have that diagnosis and have to walk through that, even though I had thyroid cancer and they would always be like, oh, low on the totem pole, it's not really that big of a deal. And that was frustrating for me. It wasn't because I wanted it to be a big deal, but it kept materializing for a little while there. And I had multiple surgeries, I had multiple treatments, and it did disrupt life and it did change the trajectory of my outlook on my health moving forward, whether I liked it or not. I'm now in another category when I go to the doctor's office.
Right.
Um, so it does no whether, but I had to decide, like, am I going to live within the percentages that they're throwing at me all the time? Or am I going to try to keep myself 100% in, in God and knowing his will is his will for my life and nothing outside of that is going to mess with that. So, I mean, that's like a whole heavier subject and we could go so much
Yeah. We could
deeper
do a whole
into that.
podcast just on that
For
alone.
sure.
There's so
And
much
I'm
more to
I'm
go.
happy to come on again and discuss cancer and cancer survivorship or whatever it is.
Yes.
Not that
Yeah.
I'm a pro at it.
It's a lot, and I think to a certain extent, like you said, I had a very low stage of breast cancer, and there were a lot of people that said, "Well, you're not going to die, so why are you making such a big deal out of it?" And it just really invalidated my experience because I still went through
Yeah.
multiple surgeries and radiation, and lots
Yeah,
of great things, and just the mental load that comes with that. So,
for sure.
I love the verse that you pointed out, and I believe mine. Now, here's my turn to maybe botch it, but
Yeah.
I believe it comes in Matthew, but it's the verse about not worrying about tomorrow because you have
Yeah.
enough to worry about today, and
Yeah.
that's kind of a similar but yet different verse that I know I have
Yeah.
tried to live by because when I do get consumed with worry or consumed with just anything negative in my life,
Mhm.
I go to that one because. But I like yours. I'm gonna start writing yours on a little note card and put it on my
Oh, I'm
fridge
so
or my
glad.
my bathroom window my bathroom
Oh, yes.
but I like that one too because worry doesn't make it facts. Worry's in our mind, and our thoughts aren't always facts. It's not like you
That's a
said.
good
Take it
point. That's a
take
really
it to
good
another
point.
level. Yeah.
Yeah,
But thank you for sharing that.
of
Like I said,
course.
I want to share again just this book cover. Inside the
Oh,
book
thank you.
are just beautiful photos of your recipes. And I mean, just look at this one right here. The photography, everything's just so beautiful and bright.
Thank
It's
you.
available now wherever books are sold. And then, speaking of books, as we close out here, your husband has a
Yes.
book coming out, and today's his pub day. You want to share just a little bit about that
Yeah,
before
we're
we end?
really excited. We both became published authors in 2025. We didn't have it on our bingo card, but that's the way it worked out. And Brian is more of a children's book writer. Still with the food spin though, because I do have a recipe in the back of that book,
Ooh.
which is really fun. And he wrote a middle grade graphic novel. So all of his witty dad humor is in there. You can roll your eyes along with me, but it's called Dracula's Brunch Club, and it's a nice vampire who just eats jelly donuts. That's the premise of it. So there's a lot of silly stuff in there. It's a fun, quick read. It's going to be in the Scholastic book fairs. So if your
Oh,
school has a Scholastic book fair, your child might spot
yes.
it there. But it is out in the world today. I mean, doesn't Amazon sell everything? So I
Yes.
know it's
Yes. You
there.
can always find it there no matter what. And yes, my kids
So
do have book fairs. My son is in third grade this year. He just started third grade, and he definitely, I know he'll have one. And
great.
both my kids love to read, and he loves graphic novels. He loves all those Dogman books and all sorts
Oh
of
yeah,
types
those are
of,
huge. Those are
yeah.
huge.
And then my daughter's in middle school. Like I said, she's 11, but she's starting sixth grade this year. And so she kind of fits into
Awesome.
that,
Yeah.
realm of, the age range
Yeah.
that he's aiming for. So I think that's
Yep.
amazing. So you can get both books. Now both books are
Yeah.
available. You can get
Yeah.
Dina's
You can
and
have
Brian's
a
book.
book party.
That's wonderful. And just we're going to link it here on the podcast notes, but where can people find you, whether it's on social media or on your blog, on your website? Where would people find you?
Sure. So, I am always cooking and talking and just being a general chaotic mess on Instagram at DishItGirl Dina, which is where a lot of, at least the call outs to my recipes are. Sometimes I'll throw out some full ones on there as well. A lot of the recipes over the years live on dishitgirl.com. And I also, exciting news, I'm coming out with a podcast with Christian Parenting's podcasting network in the next month. So,
Nice.
yeah, I'm excited
Congratulations.
about that. Thank you. And so that's going to be structured kind of like my book with recipes and devotionals. So I'm excited to have a platform just to share my heart and just hopefully encourage even in like the most unlikely places. So
I love that. Well, now we can listen to that soon. That's exciting. I will definitely subscribe to that for sure. But Dina, thank you so much for being here
oh, thank
today.
you.
And
I've loved talking with you today, Kim. It's been great.